Hi everyone, it's Kristie here from KP Creatives with another video for Two Scrapbook Friends. Today we are going to be making a full panel shaker card. And I'm not sure if you've seen these made before. I was inspired by a card that Christina Werner on her YouTube channel that she made. And I thought I had to try it, and I wanted to show you guys the process of how to do this because it's really cool and really adds some new ways of doing shaker cards that I had never done before. So I thought you might find it fun. Here's the list of supplies we're going to be using today. I'm sure you've seen on Carolyn's Lives the fantastic new sequin sets that are available at Two Scrapbook Friends from Picket Fence Studios. And they are so beautiful and they work perfect for this project. So if you've picked up any of those recently, or you have other like really thin or tiny sequins in your stash, this is going to be the perfect project for you. So I'll pop this up again at the end of the video, and I apologize, there's a mistake on this sheet. We will not be using the unicorn white ink. That's actually for an upcoming video where I'm also using some of the similar products from this, but you actually don't need it for this project. So if you don't have that, don't worry about it. We will not be using it today. So let's get into some of the supplies we'll be using. We have our standard jewel pick glue, score tape. You will need score tape. I'm going to use 1/4 inch because this is the roll that I currently have open in my stash, but you could use whatever size score tape you have. And we'll go through a little bit more detail on that when we get to that part of the project. I'm going to be using two stamp and die sets. The first set I'm going to be using is this new set from Photoplay in their Say It With Stamps collection. It's called Hi, Hello, and Hey. And this is a great set for all-purpose sentiments, some fun, cheeky sentiments for friends, which like, hello, Miss Sassy Pants. There's some really cute sayings on this one. And the set also comes with the coordinating dies. So you have the word die and the shadow for the big hey, hi, and hello. So a really great set to have in your collection. Off camera, I die cut 3 of the hellos out of the Neenah Classic Crest 110 pound weight cardstock. Normally I do my die cutting out of 80 pound, but I wanted this hello to really pop with dimension on the card. So I stacked 3 of them together using the Lawn Fawn liquid glue, and it turned out really great. So it's a nice heavy duty hello sentiment that will go on the card. And then out of that Photoplay set, I stamped in the Versamark Onyx Black ink a note to say, and then I'm sure most of you have sentiment strips or message strip dies in your collection. Photoplay makes one. I don't have that one, but I do have the Hero Arts message strips. Again, this is a great all-purpose sentiment set from Hero Arts, and it comes with those sentiment or sentiment label dies or message strip dies, which are super handy to cut out your sentiments because it can be really tricky cutting those out with your paper trimmer sometimes. It's one of those things, sometimes I'm feeling brave and I will go for it with my paper trimmer. Other times I will say, you know, I'm not going to throw caution to the wind. I'm going to use one of those message strip dies and make sure it's done correctly the first time. So we are going to be using, as I mentioned, a sequin mix from Picket Fence Studio. This set is, I believe, called, yes, it's called Razzle Dazzle, but there are some amazing ones. I actually just picked up from Two Scrapbook Friends this sequin mix, and I think it is called Aqua Seas, and I thought this one would be great for some holiday cards, just for winter shaker cards. Anyways, more to come on that in another video, but for this video we're going to stick with the Razzle Dazzle. And I love these sequin mixes because they come in these fantastic containers, and I hope the camera is picking up the beautiful jewel tones of these sequins. They are so gorgeous, and you are going to get to see them in action on this card as we get rolling through our project. So our card base is the Neenah Classic Crest 110 pound cardstock. This finished card size is 4 inches across by 4 inches down. So it's a square card. So I have already cut and scored that at, well, it's 8 inches total, cut and scored it at 4 inches. So we've got that nice 4x4 card. Then I have a piece of the Nina Classic crust in the 80 pound, and this is cut just shy of 3.5 by 3.5. And you'll see why it's just shy as we get going. But if you cut it right at 3.5, it's not a big deal. It's just gonna make sliding it in somewhere a little tighter, but that's totally okay. So then you're gonna need a piece of vellum. And you want to cut your piece of vellum to 4.5 by 4.5. And you might say, well, Kristie, that makes no sense because the finished card that you just told us about is only 4 inches by 4 inches. And you would be right. But what we're going to do is actually wrap this vellum around the 3.5 by 3.5 piece. And we're gonna fold it over and slide the sequins inside. So the idea is that the sequins, you'll be able to shake the card and the sequins are gonna bounce around on this whole panel. So I hope that makes sense. It will all come together, I promise, as we work on things here. So the first thing we're going to do is score our vellum. So if you have a scoring tool, I happen to have this little scoreboard from EK Tools. There are many different scoreboards around. I think some paper trimmers also have scoring capabilities, so use whatever you've got. And I'm using my Teflon bone folder. I really love the Teflon bone folder. It is an investment, but it is worth every penny. And if you are a card maker or you make a lot of journal type books, you're doing mixed media, it's a tool that I guarantee you will use on almost every project. So it really is worth it. So what we're going to do is we are going to score each side of this 4.5 by 4.5 piece of vellum at the 1/2 inch mark. So I'm coming in, we're at 4.5 here. I'm going to score it at 4 inches. Just giving it a couple presses with the Teflon bone folder, and I'm going to score it again at the other side here at 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to rotate it just one turn so that I can score on the opposite sides. So again, we're going to score here at 4 inches. And on the other side, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay. So I hope you can see on camera there that we have 4 lines, each 1/2 inch in, on each side of this vellum. So now what I'm going to do is take my scissors and I'm going to cut out these squares. So those of you that also dabble in fabric crafts will know that it's really handy to cut out the bulk of these corners because they're going to give us a much nicer finish on our card. So you do not need to measure this by any means. We are just going to cut out the corners. And the idea is we're getting rid of the bulk. And actually, I should have gone in on an angle. It just makes it a little bit easier to do. So I'll show you the proper way to do it. I would get it right one of the 4 times, right? So I'm just coming in on an angle and cutting down, and we're doing the same thing on each side. Cutting in and getting rid of those pieces. And this is going to make sure we've got some really nice flaps on our shaker card and we're not going to have any bulk. So, sorry, I messed that up a little bit at the beginning, but not a big deal because I didn't cut too much off, which is the good news. So this is what you're looking for at the end once you've cut the corners. So you want to have your 4 score lines and you want to have the edges cut so that when you fold in the flaps, you don't have a lot of bulk. So just give me 1 second to get these little doodads off into the trash can. Or on the floor, wherever they landed. Then you're going to take your bone folder and you're going to fold in the flaps along those great score lines that you made and press. So you'll get nice, crisp edges all along each side of this square. And it's really nice to use some heavy duty vellum. I believe this vellum that I'm using is from Lawn Fawn, but any quality vellum that you can get is great. It will work perfectly for this project. So now we have our finished vellum square. So ideally, you want your piece of the Neenah Classic Crest Solar White in the 80 pound to fit inside this square. So I'm just going to test that out to see if it does fit or if I need to cut a little bit more off of that white piece. So let's see, just lifting up one of those flaps and popping this in. And I can tell already I'm gonna need to cut that white piece a little bit smaller, because if I stick with this right now, nothing is gonna be able to shake around in there. It's too tight. So I'm going to cut this down a little bit. I'm gonna grab my paper trimmer. And so it's just shy of 3.5. I'm actually gonna go down just at the tick mark there. And let's see if that will get us a little bit more wiggle room within the vellum little pouch here that we made. Let's see. That looks good. So I can tell here I've got a little bit more wiggle room in the vellum, and there's going to be some room for the sequins to actually shake around. Whereas before it actually wouldn't have shaken around at all, which is no good, because the whole point of a shaker card is to be able to have things that are shaken around. So let's check the final size there so I can give you guys that final measurement. So we are at 3 3/8. That's the final measurement that we're working with. I think that's right. You know, inches are not my thing. I'm much better at centimeters, but it's the large tick mark between 3 1/4 and 3.5. So hopefully that makes sense and you guys are able to see. Let me just move my trimmer down in case it wasn't in camera and you can see where we're cutting here. But basically you just want it a little bit smaller than the size of the vellum pouch. So you can actually adjust the size of this card for any size card that you want to make. I'm just doing this square one because I thought it fit for the project that I wanted to do today. So now we're going to grab the score tape and we're going to get set up for starting to put this together. So I am going to put pieces of the score tape along each of the 4 little tabs that we've made for each side of the card. So I'm going fairly close up to the edge, all the way along, and make sure that's covered edge to edge because we don't want any of these sequins flying out. If you've never used score tape before, it is a fantastic heavy-duty adhesive. It's the adhesive that I always use on my envelopes, and it's great. It holds up awesome through the mail. You have no problems. Okay, so I'm going to take off 3. Really important that you don't take all of the release tape off. Just take off 3 strips of the release paper, and then put down your piece of the 80-pound Neenah, and then fold over all of those tabs. So you're going to have 3 sides that are closed and 1 tab that is open. Okay? And the tab that is open is where we are going to pop in our shaker bits from the sequin mix. So I'm going to pop this open, and I've pretty much got it right in the shaker card there. And we're gonna pop some in, and then we're gonna see if we want to add more. So that's a pretty good amount, but I think I'm going to add just a little bit more. Let's see, how's that? That just feels like a little bit much. So it's a bit of Goldilocks here. We want things to be just right. And of course, there are no rules. So you go ahead and add as much or as little shaker bits as you want. So you can see now why you want to have sequins or shaker bits that are pretty thin, right? Because you've just got the vellum on the side. Now, I was thinking of trying this, of scoring 2 layers of the vellum so that it actually popped up, but I haven't had a chance to do that yet. So for now, I'm sticking with the smaller, more flat type of sequins versus gems in these types of cards, because that seems to be working quite well. So I'm going to make sure they're kind of, you know, not totally flat here, but that I've got them on a large space before I flip it over and take that last piece of release paper off and close it up. So there we go, completely self-contained little panel of shaker bits. And I absolutely love that. I think it's so cool and a really neat way to do shaker cards that that I hadn't thought of before. And I think that it's pretty fun. So now we are going to get our sentiment on here. So again, we're going to go with a note to say hello. And I want to have that kind of weighted in the bottom corner here of the card. So I've got my Lawn Fawn liquid glue. And I'm gonna get this glue on the sentiment here. And the glue's coming out pretty fast here, so I am gonna dab this off on a piece of scrap paper just so that we don't get lots of gobs of glue on our project. So just give me a second here to grab my tweezers. If this happens to you, grab a piece of scrap paper. I know we have lots of those, and just dab your sentiment off a little bit, and it will make sure that you have less of a chance of big gobs of glue sticking out. Now, I don't mind a little bit because this Lawn Fawn liquid glue, same with the Gina K liquid glue, they dry clear, so a little bit's okay, but I don't want big globs coming out. So I'm just going to press that down, and actually just gonna set one of my acrylic blocks on there to let that set up while we get some glue onto the sentiment strip. That's great. Bring in the tweezers again, and let's get this set up. I want this to go right to the edge of the card. And we're just gonna give that a nice press. And again, you can see there's a little bit of glue oozing out there, but you know, just with a quick dab of your fingers. And honestly, like this glue dries completely clear. So not a big deal to get a couple little spots where it's sticking out. Okay, so that is the shaker panel part. Now I'm going to, just to add a little bit more dimension, put some foam tape on the back of this panel, just so that we'll pop up the entire thing on the card. And I'm gonna go with 4 strips because I want this card is going through the mail, and I want it to be nice and supported. If I was hand delivering it, maybe I'd only go with 3 strips, but you know, I'm good with going a little overboard on the foam tape here and making sure that we've got a card that is really well supported through the mail. So I'm gonna take this release paper off the foam tape, and I am going to add some liquid glue onto the foam tape just so we have a little bit of wiggle room when we're placing this on our final card, so that we can make sure it's nice and straight. And I apologize, I didn't have my secret weapon ruler out on my desk. So just grabbed that so we can make sure we are getting this panel nice and straight on the finished card. So I'm coming in from the left-hand side 1/4 inch, and this will make sure that we are 1/4 inch even all the way around on this card project. There we go. I'm gonna give that a nice press. And this card is finished. So I hope this has inspired you to try out one of these full panel shaker cards. A lot of fun. I think there's a lot of options here. You could do, you know, a layer of a birthday cake with this, just so there is like some sparkles in the middle. But really fun cards for anyone really. And honestly, these Picket Fence Studio sequin mixes are absolutely perfect. Now they have gem mixes that are a little thicker. So if you're checking on the online store for this project, you want to be looking for the sequins, not the gems, but also any other type of flatter sequin that you have or that you see on the online store is going to work for this project. So grab a piece of vellum, grab your scoreboard, some sequins, and try this out. I really hope you enjoyed this project, and hopefully you will give it a try. If you give it a try, please let us know. Send us your photos, and we would love to hear how it's going and how your project turned out. So again, here's the list of supplies that we used in today's project. I apologize for the mistake of the unicorn white ink. Again, that will be on an upcoming project. So I hope you're having a great fall so far. If you have a moment, please take a second to like this video by giving it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.